Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're going to talk about Cellulose, a plant cell biology game. And this is designed by John Coview and Steve Schleppenhorst, and it is published by Genius Games.
If you were like me, when you were first learning about all different cell biology in school, it was like a snooze fest, and you just didn't get it, you didn't understand it at all. But then you watched something like the Magic School Bus, which took you inside the cell, and you got to learn a little bit more about it, and then it kind of clicked a little bit. Well, this takes that to a whole new level. You are playing as the cell, you are doing the cell's function in this worker placement style game, learning about all the different cell functions, and having a great time doing it. Let me show you how to play. Alright, here is our setup for Cellulose. This is a basic worker placement game. You have all different spots on the board where you can go to place your pawn in order to take certain actions. We've got our water tracker over here. We've got some cards that we're going to be able to purchase. We've also got kind of a little key here. It's going to be very important as far as what all the different symbols mean, as well as the phases of the game are all there as well. We've got all different components along here as well, and then we're ready to go. The main idea behind this game is we are trying to build the cell wall of this cell. And there's kind of a little tracker for that here. So every time we are able to place cell wall pieces from this little spot on the board, we're going to get victory points as well as advance the game. Well, how do you get those cell wall pieces? Well, first we have to build these chloroplasts. You're going to go to this spot over here. You're going to spend 6 of the water cubes, 6 of the CO2 cubes in order to build a carbohydrate. Well, how do you get those? You can go over here to this spot of the board. You can go here to get some water. What's going to happen is the water availability is going to drop down every time you take water. And of course, at the end of the round, it's going to refill. Also, you can go over here to absorb some CO2, and that's going to get you some cubes based off of where you place your piece as well. There's also spots on the board to pick up some of the proteins and some of the hormones over here. Those are going to be used a lot of times in cards. In addition to building the cell wall, you can also use carbohydrates to build mitochondria. Those over here, those ATPs are going to be called in the game, are going to be used to trigger a lot of your cards and get you some benefits as well. And of course, like most worker placement games, there's a place to go get first player marker over here, and there's a way to increase your income every round over here. So speaking of income, there's 3 phases to this game. The first phase, which is kind of the sunrise phase, that's when you get your income, and I'll show you all that in just a bit. Then we have the normal daytime phase, which is where you do all of your actions here on the board. And then there's kind of a nighttime phase where you do all of your cleanup. Alright, so what's going to happen is you're going to take all your pieces back off the board. You're going to go to this central spot of the board here, the central vacuole. Over the course of the game, you're going to have a chance to kind of donate water to the central vacuole. And whoever donated the most amount of water is going to take their water off of that spot on the board. They're going to get some victory points and get a chance to go up on that track, as well as get an extra pawn to use in the next round. If you had water on that board that you had donated, but you weren't the one who had the most, it actually stays out there, so maybe in a future round, you can still get some usage out of that. Also, in order to keep the game going, during that nighttime phase, one of the cell walls automatically builds itself, so it's kind of a timer. The game's always progressing itself, building that wall. Alright, also, the water level's going to go right back up, and based off of how much the cell wall has built, it can go higher and higher, and you can go to the very, very top towards the end of the game. Last thing you're going to do is you're going to get rid of some of these cards, and you're going to refill that row. Speaking of those cards, those are some great ways in order to get some extra actions and some extra points. You can put one of your pawns on these specific card slots in order to take those cards, and they might be free, or maybe even cost some resources. However, they just go into your hand. Any other time during the game, including when you purchase them, after you take an action, what you can do is you can pay the costs on the left side of the card in order to do the benefit at the bottom of the card. Some of them are fairly straightforward, like for instance this protein storage vacuole just basically says you get a couple points at the end of the game, plus you get to pick up one of your pawn that you've already placed, so that way you can place it again later, which is great. Basically gets you a free action. Also, things like starches usually allow you to draw more cards into your hand so you have more things to work with, and they get you a ton of points. But they usually are pretty costly. In this case, it's going to cost you 2 of those carbohydrates for that particular starch, which is a lot of points towards the end of the game. My favorite kind of cards are the enzyme cards. Those basically, once you have them down, they have kind of this little puzzle piece thing here on the bottom of them that says you have to pay that cost, usually a red cube, in order to do whatever that benefit is right there. In this case, draw a card. So the next time you place an orange card, maybe you get to do it again. So even this simple one like this, for instance, this one just says that has no special benefit. But when you play it, you'll be able to play a red cube in order to do that benefit. And there's even ones that give you points. So if you have a whole kind of a system of these enzyme cards going, you can pay as many red cubes as you want in order to trigger as many of those cards as you want one time each. So that is the main board. Again, it's just a worker placement game. You're trying to get as many resources as you can in order to turn those resources into usually carbohydrates so you can build a cell wall or other things that use those carbohydrates in order to get a ton of victory points. Now, there's one last thing I want to show you, which is the income track. All right, this is our income track. So basically what's going to happen is you're going to start off with your pawns right there in the middle. And you're going to be able to spend resources in order to go up the plant or go down into the roots. So you're going to start off with no water income, but you do get 1 CO2 cube every round. Now you can go to the plasma membrane part of the board in order to go up or down on this track. And what's going to happen is you can pay whatever resources in the red there in order to, every income phase, now you're going to receive whatever your pawn is at. These also kind of Y off a little bit. So for instance, you can kind of go down and down and down, or maybe you choose to take this track, or maybe you choose to go down over here. Every time you go down, you're going to pay whatever resources are in the red as soon as you go there. But then, every time you have the sunrise phase, you're going to take those resources. In this case, you would get 2 of the proteins, 5 of the waters. You'd also get a one-time benefit of some points as well on some of these. Similarly, above ground, you can go over here, or you can go over here, or you can kind of go up and up and up, maximizing all the different income that you can get. I do want to point out the main board is double-sided, so based off the number of players, you can flip it over, and you can have a completely different experience with 4 or 5 players versus 1, 2, or 3. There is a solo mode, just like I suggested, and it's got all new rules as well. And there's also some different scenarios that you can do in this game. There's a mangrove plant board on the opposite side of this, which is basically another way to get income. There's different scenarios and benefits that you can do to get more gameplay out of this. Throughout the game, you're going to be keeping track of the majority of your points on the actual track itself or on the outside of the board. However, at the end of the game, you're also going to add in points for leftover carbohydrates and any of the points that you get from cards. You're going to add up all your points from all your different sources, and whoever has the most amounts of points wins the game.
The production quality of this game was exactly what I would expect from Genius Games. It was really well done. I liked all the pieces. I liked the chunky pieces. I thought, like you have this tech tree and it's the plant. Like, how cute
it's a
is
tree.
that? Yeah.
Tech tree.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And how the player pieces, because it's, plant cell biology, the score tracker are flowers. Like, the little things like that, I totally dug, totally was here for, and I just really enjoy the production of this game.
When I'm playing a worker placement game, I love it when there's conversions that you can do that turns things into things. And although I didn't necessarily always know what the name of the thing that I was converting into the things, I know that if I'm going to turn, 6 blues and 6 grays, and I'm going to turn them into 2 greens, and I'm going to do...
That one's easy. That's the water.
That's like the main one.
Yeah.
But there's all the conversions you could do, and you could turn the oranges and the reds into, upgrades on your different tracks and all those things. I love converting those things into those other things that made you more and more efficient, that allowed you to take more and more actions, that allowed you to get the better things, that allowed you to get the victory points, basically.
Yeah.
So I love just that normal kind of victory point churning engine building style worker placement game that is contained.
The game also moves itself forward. So throughout the game, after the end of every round, as Ryan showed you, there is a carbohydrate that's placed on the cell wall. And once it reaches the end, the game is over. So the game is making sure that it is moving forward. You can't just sit there and do stuff and try to build up all this stuff. The game is going to move itself forward. And not just that, but there's different points. So all of those spots are worth different points, and some of them are worth more than the others. So sometimes, at least I did this, I was trying to rush to at least get that because I knew that the game was going to cover up that 12 spot right away, and I want to make sure that I'm the one that covers that up, not the game. I want those points. And so I like that it had a really good pace because of that, because it kept pushing the game forward.
I know that I was making fun of the cubes, colors, and stuff like that. And as we were playing the game, that's what we would say. I'm going to take 6 blues, I'm going to take 3 reds, I'm going to take 2 oranges, that kind of a thing. But actually, in reality, there's actually a whole other book that comes with, there's the rule book, and then there's the book called The Science Behind Cellulose. Yeah. And after we played it the first time, I read that book, and it was very, very enlightening. It kind of gave you the whys scientifically behind everything that you were doing. Why does... all these water molecules and CO2 become oxygen and water byproducts and those kinds of things in the carbohydrates. So I loved having learned all that, or relearning all that from grade school. And just every action was kind of laid out. Why does it do that? Why is that in the game? Why is it spelled out like that? Why do these different cards have these enzymes that help each other out? Yeah. Those kinds of things all were explained in that book, which made everything not only just more enjoyable to play the game because you kind of understood the whys, but also just kind of refreshing yourself on those things that you'd forgotten that you used to know. Yeah. Every time, I love playing games that teach me things. A lot of times it's geography-based or something, playing a game like, oh, that's where that city is. Yes. Or the word orthogonal. No one knows what that was before playing board games. Yeah. But in this case, what we're learning about is science. I thought that was just really, really fantastic.
And it's really nice, too, because after you read that book and then play the game, it sinks in more. It's with you longer. And if that, for some reason turns you off from that, don't. Because if you want, it's just a really solid worker placement game. So you could completely ignore the science if you wanted to and still play a really fun strategic worker placement game. Like you can, like Ryan said, you can delve into the science behind it. You can read that book. You can understand everything. Or you can be like, I don't care. I just want to play the game. And does the game...
I want victory points.
Yeah. Does the game still stand? And it does. It 100% still stands without that, which is why it's great at merging those two things.
The card play in this game was a lot of fun. I remember when we were first learning, the first time we played, we didn't really use the cards at all, hardly. Maybe we grabbed one or two. But we were just going for, basically the cubes and turning things into things to get victory points and just ignoring the cards. But on subsequent plays, we started incorporating more and more of the cards. And oh my gosh, the synergy that you could create by getting these cards, get special actions, extra points, actions that triggered additional actions. There's cards that let you take pieces off the board so you could replace them again later. It was just so much fun to kind of get the full experience of the game with the cards. And by itself, the game, that could have been a card game, but with card game with that board game, it was just...
So, overall... I really liked this game. It's just another really solid game by Genius Games. I like how it all came together. It was fun for me. I enjoyed playing it. I would play it again. I would play it right now. I'm
okay with that.
We gotta pause the recording. We'll be back. But it was just a really solid game. I've come to have this expectation when it comes to Genius Games, and I was not disappointed with this one.
I agree. This is something I would play anytime. I would never say no to a game of this, like you just suggested. Because it is fantastic. I love worker placement games anyways. This one was a great one, and it had a deeper meaning behind it besides just the playing of the game. And I know that our girls are kind of aging into these style of games, too, where in school, these are going to be the topics they're going to be learning about. And we're going to be able to be like, you know what? Let me bring that alive to you a little bit more.
Yeah, so it sinks in.
Yes, exactly. I see lots of A's in science classes in our kids' futures because of these kinds of games.
Yes, I needed these when I was a child. I did not have A's in my science classes. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come up. But Ryan and I want to know, if you could take any science concept and make it into a game, what would that be? Drop it in the comments below. We are curious. We want to know what science concept you want to see made into a game. Well, until then, like I said, don't forget to subscribe and follow us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.